A reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 26. God's promise to Isaac. Now there was a famine in the land, besides the former famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Gerar to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. And the Lord appeared to him and said, Do not go down to Egypt. Dwell in the land of which I shall tell you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and to your offspring I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham your father. I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and will give to your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked him about his wife, he said, She is my sister, for he feared to say my wife, thinking lest the men of the place should kill me because of Rebekah, because she was attractive in appearance. When he had been there a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out of a window and saw Isaac laughing with Rebekah his wife. So Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, she is your wife. How then could you say she is my sister? Isaac said to him, Because I thought lest I die because of her. Abimelech said, What is this you have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us. So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, Whoever touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. And Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich and gained more and more until he became very wealthy. He had possessions of flocks and herds and many servants, so that the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped and filled with earth all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father. And Abimelech said to Isaac, Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we. So Isaac departed from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar and settled there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water that had been dug in the days of Abraham his father, which the Philistines had stopped after the death of Abraham. And he gave them the names that his father had given them. But when Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there a well of spring water, the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, The water is ours. So he called the name of the well Esek, because they contended with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that also, so he called its name Sitnah. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it, so he called its name Rehoboth, saying, For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. From there he went up to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him the same night and said, I am the God of Abraham your father. Fear not, for I am with you, and will bless you and multiply your offspring for my servant Abraham's sake. So he built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants dug a well. When Abimelech went to him from Gerar with Ahuzath, his advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his army, Isaac said to them, Why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me and have sent me away from you? They said, We see plainly that the Lord has been with you. So we said, Let there be a sworn pact between us, between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you, and have done to you nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord. So he made them a feast, and ate and drank. In the morning they rose early and exchanged oaths, and Isaac sent them on their way, and they departed from him in peace. That same day Isaac's servants came and told him about the well that they had dug, and said to him, We have found water. He called it Sheba, Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. When Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, to be his wife, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. To be honest, I don't really read these chapters all the time before I read them, as I record myself, and it's difficult for me to concentrate on what it is I'm actually reading at times, well, most of the time, really. But what I understand here is that there was a famine in the days of Isaac, and he had to find a place to go and eat, find food, and sojourn in a different land. And so God told him not to go to Egypt. So he ended up in the lands of Abimelech. And just like his dad, Abraham, had lied that his wife was his sister, like father, like son, Isaac also lied to Abimelech and told him that Rebekah was his sister, when in reality it's his wife. And it wasn't until Abimelech was looking out the window and saw the way Isaac was, laughing and flirting with Rebekah, that he was able to tell this is not his sister. A man would not treat his sister that way. He's obviously more to it than they're probably wife and husband. And sure enough, it was. And just like Abimelech rebuked Abraham, he rebukes Isaac. He said, "What is this you have done to us? One of these people may have lain with your wife, and you would have brought up guilt upon us." It's interesting to see the mindset of these people back then, that they were afraid of God, even though they may not. How do I explain this? They probably didn't believe exactly in God the way Abraham believed in him, but they did understand some, to a certain extent, what it means to have guilt brought upon them, and have God cursing them, and have God be against them, and make life miserable for them. And so they didn't want that, especially not because somebody was lying to them or not being completely honest to them. They probably understand that they're lawless to a certain extent, but they definitely didn't want to be the recipients of God's wrath or indignation. And so he rebukes Isaac for that. And Isaac had the same reason for doing it. He did it because he was afraid that they would kill him on account of his beautiful wife, Rebekah. But, he just basically repeated his father's sin. And also I noticed that that Isaac became very plentiful in the land, in Abimelech's land, and became very wealthy there. He had lots of possessions, flocks and herds, and many servants. And so the Philistines who lived under Abimelech's kingdom were envious of him. And not only that, but it turns out that when Abraham died, the first thing, well, maybe not the first thing, but they all set out to fill in all of Abraham's wells with earth, with dirt. That's some hateful shit. I mean, they just said all this wells right here in our land used to belong to Abraham. Abraham's dead. We don't want nothing. We don't want any of that here in our land. So they filled it up with dirt. And then Isaac begins to undig the earth, basically make these wells usable again. And then some of them actually had spring water, and then his herdsmen were battling with the Philistine herdsmen over them. And finally he had a well where they didn't quarrel over it, and he named that one Rehoboth. For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. And then he went up to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him in that same night. I also see how God allows for man to go through turmoil here on earth, but he always comes through, whether one way or another. In this case, he appeared to Isaac in the night and told him he was going to bless him and multiply his offspring for Abraham's sake. And so he built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. And there, Isaac's servants dug a well. So there's something very significant about wells that maybe I don't quite understand just yet, but I could think about the time Jesus met the Samaritan woman at the well, how she was drawing water, and he told her that, those who drink of that water will be thirsty again, but those of us who believe in Jesus Christ will not be thirsty again. And I believe in Jesus Christ, but to be honest, I do thirst. If I'm completely honest, I feel like I do thirst. And that's probably a bad sign, that maybe I don't have God completely in me, or I need a lot of conversion still. Because if I have Jesus Christ, I shouldn't really be wanting anything or craving after anything or coveting anybody, but I do. And at the very not the very end, but I also see how Abimelech reaches out to Isaac and was basically try to he not basically, but he did create like a sort of under agreement or a pact with Isaac to not have them attack Abimelech and his kingdom, because Abimelech somehow realized that God was with Isaac, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with. He doesn't want to be on God's shit list. He wants to be good with God, and he doesn't want God's chosen ones to be and at war with him. So he wanted peace with them. And Abimelech basically was telling Isaac he didn't want him to do them no harm. So that tells me that God knows how to put the fear of God in his enemies, to make sure that God's chosen people prevail and become fruitful in the land for his promises to be fulfilled. And yeah. And then at the very end of the chapter says, when Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, to be his wife, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. So, one way or another, I guess the enemy is always going to find ways to make our life bitter. And that just comes with the package of being blessed. All right. God bless. Good day.